The conversation between the adherents of the faiths tends to be diplomatic, and particularly in our part of the world, given the politics of the situation, since 1948, I felt it was essential, as I studied Oriental Studies and Hebrew, Biblical Mishnaic Hebrew, to be able to talk and listen in appropriate terms with the necessary affinity, because I thought a day should come when we could agree on a common ground, but with a construct that places religion above politics. Well, in 1993 I received a copy of the Catechism from then Cardinal Ratzinger, and years passed, and in conversation I recognized the importance of the provenance of ethics, morals and values to many families of human beings. I worked as moderator of the World Conference for Religions and Peace with 9 faith groups. And I said what is important is not the only the respecting of the provenance of these ideas, but also recognizing that if we're going to come to the table, as Professor Lauterpracht suggested in the 30s, and indeed as Isaiah Berlin has suggested in terms of the power of ideas, we should try to develop a route of ideas, because we have the silk route, we have the spice route. And I think that in Jerusalem, the concept of a moral authority, and indeed in Mecca for that matter, which can really activate through conversation the work of religious foundations, which would be promoting education, empowering the poor, in the composite, including in making them more aware of the impact of religion on culture, would be essential to developing inclusionist, what we now call soft power, human power solutions, whereby people begin to recognize that convergence in doing is the natural sequel to convergence in speaking, so that it's not only a cosmetic exercise. But speaking of aesthetics, I want to say that I believe in the power of song. And in that sense, I do hope a day will come where Aramaic, Syriac, Ezekiel, Ge'ez, cantors can raise their voices with the Gregorians, so that we have both ex oriente lux and ex occidente lux. Well, I think that our feelings towards each other on the extremes, which abound everywhere, have either become apathetic and atrophied, or are at a pitch of hatred. And going back to the Catechism, you have a conversation with your Creator, which is one of love and conviction. But the conversation between his creations cannot be a conversation of hatred if we're to survive as a human species. And therefore I think what is important is to develop and disseminate a manifesto which I hope can lead to a citizen charter in our part of the world. It was in Istanbul only a few weeks ago that we held a meeting of the 3 faiths, where I posed continuously the question, how can we create an ark for the salvation of our common humanity? And it is that Noahide creed, I think, that, as Kenneth Craig has said so eloquently, that I would like to mobilize in a conversation like this, which I hope will be part of a process. Thank Helena Kennedy for pointing out very clearly that when you come to the table, you have to say unambiguously what your position is on civil liberties, what your position is on the sanctity of human life.
Yes.
And those who want to continue to practice their hatred outside the bell jar, if you will,
Yeah.
then clearly define their position. But after 40 years, and I work maybe with 3 to 4 generations of people, it's important, I think, for anyone to criticize. I can put up with all sorts of criticism, but please don't criticize my sincerity. It may be misfounded, I don't know. I mean, that's the story of a lifetime, a fleeting moment. But it's not we who count. It is the general public who counts, and something must emerge which moves us from cosmopolitan to convivial. When centers of learning can develop as the Bosnian Muslims did with their colleagues, after all, both Muslims and Jews were victims during the Balkan tragedy, a self-confidence which goes beyond the feelings of victimization, then I think the doom and gloom will gradually begin to recede. But we need solid programs such as the teaching by analogy process. The whole Erasmus process, I think, has to come to our part of the world, and I mean the Eastern Mediterranean and the Eurasian seismic line, if you will. Well, the practical role is the networking between the Alexandria Library, of which I am a trustee, between the Onassis Foundation, the Hellenic Foundation, centers in Istanbul, the Parliament of Cultures, centers in Tbilisi. And I think that the Sea of Seas, which is basically what the Mediterranean is, it's a heterogeneous sea, has to be recognized in terms of its different cultural enclaves coming together to remind the world that the Eastern Mediterranean is not just a region to be exploited for waterways and strategic consideration. The Franco-Prussian War, the First World War and the Second World War brought together a European community based externally on shared material interests, coal and steel. But I think that in our region the minimum is to bring about a sense of a supranational identity. Because after all, if we talk about Mesopotamia, or if we talk about Phoenicia, or if we talk about the Nile Valley or the Fertile Crescent, the post-imperial subdivision of the region into tiny isms is not going to address universal issues. I was at a conference in Kuwait the other day between Dartmouth, representing the Ivy League, and the American University of Kuwait on analytical thinking in higher education. And then I was in Bucharest at the UNESCO meeting of the international conference that's being prepared for higher education and science. So I think that the institutions of the United Nations system, some of them at least, are beginning to take this seriously. But this can only change radically if we develop a third sphere, which includes ad hominem participation by officials, by private sector. We need their money, but we also need their morality, which goes beyond corporate responsibility, social responsibility. And indeed, we need the PVOs and the NGOs. You know, if I talk to an Iraqi, I have to intermediate a Czech organization. If I talk to an Israeli, I have to intermediate a Pax Christi Holland, for example, or to a Palestinian. And I think that the recognition of the role of citizens' initiatives simply has to bring about a critical mass. Moderates, like myself, albeit with a sting in the tail, in the sense that we try to be truthful with ourselves and with others, should not be squeezed out of the equation by the confrontation, the polarity of extremes. Well, first of all, I'm privileged to feel that you are serving the community, and I'm serving you, in the sense that I come to Cambridge and bring views from the region, or views, for example, on migrant issues, which I have shared with people on the 5 continents. And I think that the Woolf Institute can well contribute to a regional declaration, manifesto, if you will, of rights and responsibilities in terms of the cultural affinity required. I'm delighted to see that your students and your senior staff are all well aware of the fact that you simply cannot talk to people about democracy and globalization and these words that have become trite in our part of the world as though they descend by parachute. They have to consider the empowerment, once again, the enablement of those who do not have a voice. And I think it is this articulation that President Obama has been speaking about in his discourse in Cairo, for example, which is hugely important because it cuts across all the divides.
It's reaching out, isn't it? And being able to speak in a way that somebody else understands.
It is. It's reaching out, and it's outsourcing also, because it's a partnership. You're developing a cultural policy in conjunction with universities, museums, cultural groups, academic circles from the West, and you're inviting a partnership. So it's not a question of brain drain, where people are coming here to learn, with all due respect, the sciences and medicine, which are rather easier to gravitate around, but you're bringing people to develop a deeper knowledge of themselves and of others.
Your Highness, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.